Hello, my name is Thomas Mainville. I am representing project team 8.1. Our project is DroidToiz, which is a project to allow, as our PowerPoint slide here says, to control robots from an Android handset. These are hobbyist robots. People familiar with the Arduino platform will know what we're speaking about. If you're not, I urge you to research it. It's a really cool hobby for anybody interested in technology or robotics in general at the amateur level. So the idea here is that we're going to have robots, or droid toys as we're calling them, that are fully self-contained. Meaning when you walk up to one in a room and it's powered on, you can discover it via Bluetooth, which is the communication medium we're using, and it should be able to give to you all the information you need to control it from your handset. You would basically connect to it, and let's say it had a couple LEDs that flashed. Your user interface would change to show you, hey, I have two LEDs that can flash, and you can decide how long you want to flash them. I'll demonstrate that in a moment. Before I move on, though, I do want to point out that we have our blog you're more than welcome to check out. And as well, we've had a lot of help from the South Florida Robotics Society. Their website is sunbots.org. If you have an interest in hobbyist robotics of any sort, we urge you to check them out. So to revisit the example I just mentioned, which is of one I'm calling Flash Toy, we have a robot called Flash Toy, and he's got 3 LEDs on him. In fact, we really built this robot, but I have broken him, and I'm not able to get him to work, so I can't demo him. But basically, you would discover the Flash Toy robot and connect to him, and when you did so, he'd beam back his user interface description to you, and it would be rendered on the screen as shown here. Those of you, oh dear, sorry about that. Those of you familiar now with the way Android layouts work will know that these are formed from XML files, so it seems pretty intuitive that we should be able to store those XML layout files on the robot and send them over to the handset via maybe a Bluetooth file transfer. I'll get to that in a moment. It's something that's pretty interesting to think about going forward. Basically, so anyway, you've got your user interface here, and you would go ahead and fill that out and hit send, and the robot would hopefully obey your commands, is the idea. So in terms of functionality, we have our ideal, which is what we would like this ultimately to grow to encompass. We probably won't be able to deliver on it. We definitely won't be able to deliver on it for the course, but our hope is to continue working on it even after the course, and hopefully get maybe a small community interested in it by the time we're done. Basically, the functionality is for us to be completely satisfied. We want full self-containment, which I mentioned before, meaning you're not going to go out onto the internet to download UI files for different robots and icons and that sort of thing. We want everything stored on the robot. We want the only connection to be between your phone and the robot, and Bluetooth being the only way you need to connect. So that's self-containment in a nutshell. Build and play. We want this to be easy to use enough so that when you decide you want to build a robot, you build it, you load the robot software to conform to our messaging protocol or standard, and you can be guaranteed that you should be able to communicate to it using our framework. And flexibility. Within this hobbyist robot community, there's a lot of different chipsets you can use, a lot of different microcontrollers, as well as different chips for facilitating communication over Bluetooth. We want to accommodate those. In fact, we're working with 2 separate chips for this project, and we've been able to communicate with both. So they're from 2 different vendors, but that hasn't presented a problem. We've still been able to facilitate Bluetooth communication. Backing back down to what we hope we can deliver for the course, we have our minimal functionality defined here. At a minimum, we want to be able to obviously recognize, hey, here is a toy, as opposed to a keyboard or a mouse or some other Bluetooth device that we're not interested in. So we've got to figure out a way to filter that. Presumably we would do that by name, or we could do an implicit connection to the device maybe, and have it say, "Hey, I'm a robot. So go ahead and play with me." We still have to work that out. Right now, we are able to actually recognize in a list, the various robots, but we need to refine that a little bit more. In terms of communication, we've got communication more or less working. We can send messages and have the robots do our bidding. If there's been difficulty there, it's because our expertise, at least on the FAU side, lies not in writing code for these robots, but in writing code for Android. So we've sort of had to do double duty in learning to code on two different platforms. But I think we've gotten a fairly good handle on it. We've made some progress along those lines. But right now, we've basically just got communication and some hard-coded GUI, user interfaces, which is obviously nowhere near the ideal finished product we'd like to deliver at the conclusion of this project. Not that it would ever conclude, maybe it'll go on forever. So to achieve the ideal, we've got a few technical challenges or opportunities, if you want to use the politically correct term. The first is the one that I mentioned earlier regarding the XML layouts. It seems very convenient that Android uses XML-based layouts, because then we can just store that XML file on the robot and just transfer it over. So this first bullet point here is regarding actually binding the controls that result to meaningful event handlers and code in the background. Presumably this can be done. It seems like on the surface it shouldn't be rocket science. We just haven't gotten to the point where we've discovered how to do that yet. This being a graphical, the users of Android being used to nice graphical interfaces, we don't just want some plain text options. We'd like for some icons to be able to be stored on the robot and beamed over to the handset. Of course, we could take the cheap way out and maybe store a bunch within the application and load them, but that's not the ideal. The ideal is to have them somehow beamed over from the robot, so when you build your own bot, you can load it with your own icons and your own sort of look and feel elements, and have them fully self-contained. Whether that's achievable or not remains to be seen. We think that storage on the robots might be an issue, even though we're talking about maybe some relatively small image files. We still are dealing with limited storage, at least as far as we know